So from unemployed to Army medic to self-employed to Army aviator. I'm Che McFadden, and this is that story.
Get it, 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 hey, get it, get it.
I was in the Army National Guard and unemployed. Like, yeah, if you're an M-Day soldier or if you're just in the Guard, you're drilling every week and you still have to get a job, right? So you drill every 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out every year. Doing that, I still needed to go out and find employment. And I could have worked as a medic on like an ambulance or something like that, or a medic in a hospital. But, I would have rather continue doing it for the Army versus doing it in the civilian. And that's another story, right? From being unemployed, I was able to pick up active duty orders for a while. And, when I was unable to do that because the orders either ran out or there was nothing to do, or I wasn't at the rank where, those orders were abundantly available, I was left to figure it out. So in doing that, I started working as a truck driver. I ran over the road, I ran locally, and I decided if I'm going to keep on doing this truck driving thing, constantly being away from home all the time, I need to figure out how to make it work for me and do it on my own time, right? Or on my, you know what I'm saying? Take as much of my time back as I possibly could. So in doing that, I became an owner operator. I started my own trucking company, and I ran my own truck for a while and just subcontracted and made a lot of money. And it was cool. It was great. I talked to my wife about it. I was like, hey, I think I'm just going to get out of the Army, man. We might as well you could do what you want to do as far as you want to stay in. You can stay in if you want. I was like, but I think what I'm going to do is focus on this trucking thing and keep this going, because at the time we were making a considerable amount of money. Engine blew on the truck. I had 10 months out of the truck to really think about the next step. And the next step was either get out or do one more thing in the military that I really wanted to do. And so I said, you know what, screw it, man. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try and be a pilot. And just the trial and hassle that I went through to get the packet done. Like, if anybody out there is in the military that knows about going the route of being an aviator, you know how ridiculously hard of a process that is. I've only met 2 people that claim to not have that hard of a time in the process to getting their packet put together. One of them was a street deceiver, and the other one was he was an inter-service transfer from the Marine Corps. So they had it easy. They had no problems. Okay. All the paperwork, stuff like that, the tests that they had to take, no problem. They got it all done and immediately, bam, right into a slot for flight school. So it's not that easy for everybody. And even sitting here today, I'm like, man, like, how does one go through the process of becoming a pilot in the military? Like, there's so much red tape. They dig through your history. They go through things to learn about you, to find out about you. And I didn't think I was going to get it because I couldn't even get hired by the police department. The Maryland State Police, Baltimore City, County, Howard County, Harford County, you name it, I tried for it. And even having a family member in a police department that basically, like, flat out just really didn't want to help. If I'm being honest, just didn't really care to help. So, but that's a different story. But that's where my mindset was. I'm like, if the police aren't even hiring me, what makes me think, looking at all this red tape, everything that we have to go through, what makes me think that I'm going to actually be selected to become the Army's next aviator or one of the Army's next pilots, right? So then I started really thinking, like, if it's as outlandish as it sounds, I might as well go ahead and just try for it, man. I've got nothing to lose at this point other than, like, my business, which I wasn't losing it because I was in charge of it. And that's the mentality that I had going into it, right? Aggressively in charge of it. So I dropped the packet. I took all the tests. I retook the ASVAB. I had to get my score back up. And, I took it so seriously to the point of where I'm not someone who is a big fan of math. And my GT score, I needed to get my GT score up to at least a 110. And the one thing that was affecting that score was my performance in math. My math was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. It was garbage. In fact, it was the one thing that got me to quit college. Like I'm not even going to go to college anymore. I wanted to be a doctor. And I was like, that's a lot of math involved in that. And immediately discouraged, and I wanted nothing else to do with it. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna make this happen, then I need to take it seriously, right? If I'm as, I had no faith. I had zero faith. I was like, okay, it's not gonna work, but I'm gonna do everything that I'm supposed to do on my part to make sure that I'm right to make it happen, right? So I studied. I studied for like a year and a half to get my GT score up, just to study math and practice math. And my wife helped me out and all of that. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, I went back, I took the ASVAB, I retook the test and scored extremely high. Like, I scored higher than I thought I would have. And what that told me was, in the past, I wasn't taking anything as seriously as I should have been. Mind you, at this time, I'm 32 years old. And I'm like, man, is this what it takes for me to say, hey, you know what? It's time for me to stop messing around. It's time for me to stop like taking everything for a joke and actually doing what I'm supposed to do to see results. I'd already accomplished that with my trucking company, with my business. Like I went all in on it, and nothing from that point on was a game. Nothing was a game. And, I'm sitting there like, what's next? What do I need to do next? Who do I need to talk to next? Now I know that there's somebody out there that's going to talk to me because I am like, I'm producing results. Like, I'm turning out results. Like, there's nothing that can stop me at this point. Maybe I can have a little bit of hope. But as soon as I started thinking that way, I was like, nope, let me just go ahead and check myself and kind of draw back, reel it back in, So I took the ASVAB, got my score up, scored for me impressively high. I think it was like a 120 something for GT, and then like almost the 90th percentile in that overall ASVAB score. And that's from 52nd percentile with like a 102 GT score. And when I retook it the first time, I did it so that I could get qualified. I did it so that I had a chance or an opportunity to become a combat medic. Because to do that, you need a GT score of 107. And I didn't have, I had 106. I needed a waiver for 1 point. At that time, I was completely discouraged. I was like, I'm not even gonna worry about it. By the time I came around to try this aviation thing again, the person that I was talking to was a reserve recruiter. And, I told her, I was like, hey, I just scored this on the ASVAB. I just scored this on the SIFT. Like, what's next? Like, what do I need to do next? And she just crickets. She dropped right off the face of the earth. And that's when I was like, that right there is my answer. That's my answer for why I need to go ahead and just quit this whole thing and give up, man, and be done with it. And that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. The unit that I was in at the time, I was a combat medic instructor. We're still in COVID protocol, so we're still doing the social distancing thing and doing virtual drills and things like that. So what we did was my wife, she had to go to drill, and I had to finally start going back to drill because we had did the social distance protocol for a little bit longer for safety and all of that. So I didn't have any uniforms with me. All my uniforms were back home, and we were on the road. So we had stopped at this base one day, and I needed to grab uniforms because I didn't have any. And I'm all beards all grown out, hair's all grown out. Like I look like a bum, man. Like I didn't. You wouldn't think I was in the military, honestly. I'm standing in line, and this particular base had an airfield on it. It had an airstrip right next to the PX. So I'm over there and I'm looking and I'm like, whatever, man. And I'm standing in line in the clothing and sales behind a guy in uniform. And, he wasn't wearing like a flight uniform or anything like that. So it was hard to tell if he was even a pilot or anything like that. But I started thinking to myself, I was like, what if this guy standing in front of me actually is a pilot and he works over here at this airfield? Lo and behold, this guy turns around. And he's a CW4. He's got his aviator wings, and like he's got the smile on his face, right? It was weird, man. It was really wild. But I'm like, time like froze for a second, and I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, you need to say something to this guy. Like you're more than 50% of the way through the packet and process to become an aviator, or at least to get to the board to be selected. You need to say something to this guy. So I catch him. I was like, hey, hold on. I was like, excuse me a second, sir. I was like, you have a quick minute? He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, what's up? I'm like, look, man, I know I don't look the part at all. I was like, I know I don't look like I'm even remotely close to being a soldier right now. I was like, but I've been, we've been doing the COVID protocol, social distancing, and we've been having virtual drills, and I'm about to start going back drilling again. So I'm here getting my uniforms and name tapes and stuff like that and boots so I can go back. I was like, but that's no matter. I was like, I wanted to ask you about being an aviator in the Army. And he's like, sure, what do you got? I was like, well, look, man, I already have like a lot of the packet done. And like he stopped. He had this look on his face that was like really? Because a lot of people that want to go aviation don't realize how much needs to happen. Like what needs to happen with the people you need to talk to, the paperwork that needs to be done, the tests you need to take, the flight physical, all of this stuff. I had all of that stuff done, right? I just needed to be put in touch with somebody that would put me on the right path. And he just so happened to be that person, man. So he's like, if everything that you're saying is true, I want to put you in touch with somebody, and she's going to be in your inbox immediately. And you know it, man. We go out here, if we're talking to somebody, we're, conversing or something like that. If it comes down to like emailing or maybe a text message is quick because, it's one and done, and then you text that person, you meet somebody on the street, you text that person, hey, yeah, this is my phone number, and you lock them in. That's probably that might be the last time you ever talk to that person. No matter how much you try to, network and all of that, that might be the one and only time, the one and final time that you talk to that person. But he put me in touch with somebody, this warrant officer strength manager, and she was in my inbox that night. And it was over. From there, I was like, okay, I'm in there. I'm pretty much in there. And it's not a thing of arrogance or anything like that. It's not arrogance. It's not cockiness. But at that point, I knew I was in there. Because for the longest time, I couldn't get anybody to talk to me. I couldn't get anybody to even take the time to take a few seconds to tell me much of anything about what aviation was, what it was about, or anything like that. So I was in there. I straight up was in there. So we go through the process, the rest of everything, and she's like, the fact that you have all of this stuff done saves a lot of time. It saves so much time for her. It saved time for me. It saved time for the leaders that were on the boards, the federal recognition board, the flight board, the interviews, the phone interviews that I had to, go through and things like that. I mean, like it was something, man. It really was. You got to have a a certain level of clearance to be able to become an aviator, and if you don't have it, you got to go through that process. Well, I already had that, what was needed for that. So that's another like check in the box. So, everything that was happening, it fell in place the way that it should have. It took a little bit of time, but it worked out the way that it was supposed to work out. What that told me was there are people that are willing to help you in the world, but there are more people in the world willing to not help you or willing to not care than there are to actually help you. And I mean, with that, like, where do you go? Like, how do you move with that kind of information? You know what I mean? It's like, what do you really do? Who do you talk to, man? Who do you talk to? What do you have to do to get to where you want to be? When you have people that are standing in your way, preventing you, being blocks, and preventing you from getting to where you're supposed to be. So with all of that, man, like I say that to say this: no matter what it is, it doesn't even have to be aviation. It could be you trying to be a carpenter or a police officer. There's something out there for you. You got to figure out what it is. And if it's something that you're really trying for, that you're not getting any answer for or any help, just do everything that you know that you're supposed to do to make yourself qualified and to make yourself attractive and attract whatever that is to you. You can't really chase it. If it's something that you want, you have to create the environment for it. You got to create the environment for it. You can't just go after it. I give you the perfect analogy for it, right? It's like a guy that's really like in love with this girl. And this girl has no idea that this guy even exists, right? He sees an opportunity to talk to her or to have some kind of conversation with her, but he does it the wrong way, right? And he's desperate. So what he does is he chases this girl. He sees her, she comes walking out of a store or something like that. And he's like, hey, excuse me. And then now the girl, she catches on and she's freaked out about it. And what does she want to do? She wants to run. And if she's got it in her to not run, but to stand there and listen, she's not listening to you completely. She's freaked out, right? It's the same thing, man. It's like a guy that's chasing a girl or a girl that's chasing a guy that doesn't want them. And they're constantly they think that if they consistently pursue, that eventually it's going to happen. It doesn't work it really does not work like that. Work on yourself first, okay? Work on yourself. Create the environment for yourself. Foster what you want to become first before you go pursuing it. Because you pursuing it, you're just going to chase it away, man. Don't do that. All right. I hope this helps, man. And there are more videos to come on it. There's a lot more. I can go a lot more in depth and detail with the process of becoming an aviator, the process of becoming a combat medic, starting your own trucking company. It could be really just about anything, man. I've had my hands in several different types of industries at this point. But in the meantime, I'm Che McFadden. I appreciate you watching. I hope you got some kind of value out of this video. And there are definitely more coming because I've officially started a podcast on this channel to help people with lifestyle choices and, figuring out what it is that they actually want to do and, weight loss, creating businesses, joining the military, whatever it is, man. Your success is what we all want to get to. Okay, we all, meaning me and you. All right, so let's do it. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.